various sites. Have you, oh, by the way, we do need a microphone here. I'm going to ask this. Just how far is that off series? My question was, obviously the whole question of having a machine, a printing machine that is capable of laying block work, but one that is actually capable of being moved from site to site. Therefore, the prospect of using it on multiple sites would perhaps reassure investors. How far are we from that being a serious competitor to traditional block work?
So I think that's one of the fundamental advantages of the Hadrian X, is that it is transportable, and like I said, it can work in situ on the site. And so you can imagine, like any other machinery, like a crane or whatever it may be, is transportable to the site. And yeah, Saudi Arabia, like I said, we're planning to have 100 of them to build houses in the desert.
And are they looking for speed, or are they looking for cost and speed advantages?
I think both. I think the two come hand in hand with this.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Any question from the audience, or am I to go again? Okay, Martin, it's your turn. You mentioned something. I have been doing a fair bit of work looking at safety monitoring systems on site, and you mentioned the Modius program that is studying the effect of using virtual reality in training people, both in alerting them to safety hazards and in some cases even training them in techniques. But whether in actual fact they carry that out to the site, that I gather is what you're studying in this program. And could you talk a little bit about how far advanced it is?
It's 1 month into 3 years, so we're just starting. That program is really looking across a range of disciplines in terms of learning how we learn. So try to validate the things that we all believe are better in terms of immersive learning or VR training, but to learn better how that works. And we do have some really good anecdotal stuff and quite well measured within individual businesses. Slightly out with the construction track, but in a manufacturing context. We produced, I think it was, a 10-part kind of manufacturing process, each had 10 subtasks, so they 100 mini tasks were trained in VR and then measured VR training versus traditional training, and it wasn't so much maybe faster, but it was sort of better. It was better retained. So when they tested the retention of the training 6 months later, the VR immersive training achieved much higher levels of retention. It's a small study within a particular organisation. We're already beginning to see some validation. We're trying to do it at an academic level over a long period to really prove it.
But you're talking about 2020 as being the time that the first firm conclusions will say data.
We'll drip everything out as we do it. We're not going to hold back and not release what we know when we know it. And most of our programmes are modular. So a piece is done, tested, delivered, and we will release and share that information as it comes along. So the first of those, I think, goes live April next year. It'll probably be, I think, 3 months, and then we'll have that first set of information.
Thank you.
Yeah, just this really comment again to Martin and perhaps Savannah, talking about the maturity of the technology. I was surprised to hear that on the first hand, the robots and the headsets aren't as mature or versatile as one would have thought in 2018. Any comments on that? I was quite surprised by that.
I'll go first. Yeah, and I'm guilty as anyone of kind of dreaming the dream and hoping for the future and seeing the future. I think a lot of the tech companies' videos and promos are somewhat guilty of overselling the dream. I think we do need to be realistic about the maturity of where we're at, but also just recognise, I think your quote was excellent, we overestimate the next 2 years and underestimate the 10-year piece. I think it's definitely in that space that we're going to see almost all of this stuff realised. And I think Anand's piece about you must build the data now, because without the data sets and the connectivity, we're not going to get anywhere anyway, so we must put all the building blocks in place to realise the value of this. For us, the headset thing, that we'll launch something next year that's useful, valuable, practical, on-site, but it won't quite be all of the vision at once. It'll be the first good step on an upward curve, and maybe in 3 and 4 years we'll realise all of this stuff. But I think we can do some of it today, and then more of it increasingly as time goes by.
Do you want Anna to comment as well?
I would stress that it is surprising how sort of nascent stage the industry is for construction, but if you look at the automotive industry, if you look at transport, if you look at anything else, sort of medical, even agriculture, they're all ahead. Construction really lags 10 years behind most industries in terms of adoption. And it's also one of the hardest industries, I think, to innovate in because people continue to make money. They continue to have good returns. Now we're starting to see a small, the employment pool becoming smaller, but previously there were plenty of people to do the jobs. So the necessary stress that leads to innovation wasn't there. There wasn't enough friction, and it's the same through all property technology, really. There hasn't been enough of a need to bring forth that innovation at a rapid speed. But in terms of robotics, if you look at any other industry, you can sort of see the future of where construction can go.
Yeah, so the maturity, your question, Alan, is really a function of how well we do the shorter term objectives of getting the data right, in my opinion. One of the important drivers for that is demystifying the outcome that we're expecting today. There are so many industry terms to define data expectations. There's standards, and there is more standards, and there are different terms used to define those standards in every different situation. So the industry is, really struggling to have a very well-defined deliverable, which is a reality. And we have had the privilege of working with some very mature owner organizations who have very high expectations, and they have managed to achieve it because they describe the data dictionary, they describe the requirements very precisely. Bruce is sitting next to you, and he'll probably speak about it tomorrow. But not many others have been able to do that. I think the more we are able to demystify the shorter term deliverables, the better or faster we're going to achieve all those future visions much quicker.
So I think the question was, you were surprised some of the robots are a little bit more advanced. I think you took a very advanced view when you presented. There's a ton that's there today, and there's a ton that's being used, and I'm not sure we get the most advantage out of it. And then maybe a different view to you, Savannah. The industry makes 2 or 3% margin. You can make more money putting your money in a bank nearly. And they take great big risks. So actually what's the driving force, I think, and something that would get the industry to move is what you're doing as an owner. I'm calling you an owner, I don't know if that's correct. But, the way that projects are directed are conflicting. They cause conflict in the way in which the projects are executed. So this digital twin, people tend to forget that a digital twin requires all the cost elements as well. As soon as you start exposing the costs, people start arguing, get defensive. So one of the biggest changes to actually make this occur is to start managing information differently, what Aaron said, use some of the advanced technologies, but most importantly, get the owners to contract in a different way. If you contract in a collaborative way, that's much more likely. And you look at other industries, oil and gas, mining, a lot of what you showed in the way in which you were saying is advanced. If you go to the mining industry, the robotics is diggers automatically digging, vehicles, autonomous vehicles turning up and driving, being filled, measuring when the thing's loaded, self-driving to where it's got to be dropped off, runs into the crusher and process. It's truly an integrated process already, and we haven't got that, and I think some of that's because we're not contracting correctly. But there is a ton more we can do with the robots and such that's there today.
I think we have another question here in the front row. Alan, is there somebody with the microphone? Thank you. I would like afterwards to follow up with another question for yourself and for Alan.
But I was just going to just make one last comment on that last question. There is a lot of advanced technology, and a lot of stuff we're talking about we're talking about future technology, but it is people making decisions in organisations, and I'm at the call face talking to people in organisations that on the sort of lower down in the field on the sites want to take the technology. It goes back up, it's looked at as a cost and and not an investment. So if people in certain higher up the chain in organisations understand that actually adopting this technology is an investment to the organisation going forward, instead of seeing it as a bottom line cost to the organisation as well. It has to be a switch on that.
Sure. Thank you, John.
And my question is going to Michael. I've been researcher for the last 3 years in the Smart City project, and my question is that is there any program or plan to use building information for making the city more smarter? Because I could see that you have some blogs and you're working to do something for virtual reality for these buildings and modeling things.
So I think there is. So one of the research centres that funds the Smart Office programme is Enable, and they have a full smart buildings section within that, and they're looking at a number of different research projects within that. We are also, I think, with our 3D model that we've put a tender out recently, that's, I suppose, an acknowledgement from us that we need to be looking at more of this stuff. We are kind of dipping our toes in a lot of this new technology and trying to understand. The Smart City team tends to be the filter who bring in new technology to the people that will actually use it eventually. So we're trying to, so whenever it's the flood sensors, we bring them to the flood management team. They start to see the value of it after a year or 2 years, and then they start to adopt it. And it'll be the same with this, be it used for planning or telecoms or whatever it might be. So we're trying to show to the planning department and a number of different departments within Dublin City Council that 3D modelling, that AR and VR and BIM and all of these different types of technologies can and will be used in the future. We just have to find a way of showing them how it's beneficial, how it might benefit them now and in a year's time and beyond. But I suppose to answer your question, then yes, we are looking at things. The 3D model will be the main thing. I suppose we'll see what innovations and what different research we have on top of it whenever we have the model next year. As I say, it will be open source, so we'll have a number of different projects with it. And also with Enable, they have a full smart buildings research section, so it'll be worth, and I can touch base with you after, give you some details about that.
Thanks, sir.
Any other questions? There's somebody here.
Hello, Sean Dennison, GS1 Ireland. Just to say at the outset that every single presentation this morning was absolutely fantastic. And just to pick up on a couple of themes, I think Kevin is absolutely right. Our experience in GS1 is that it's only when the customer gets involved and the customer starts making demands that you start seeing the progress in the domain. We've seen that in retail, we've seen it in healthcare, many other areas of business. And going back to what Anand said, data classification is absolutely essential. And underlying everything we heard this morning is data. And mountains of data, drinking from the fire hose, I think we will be, unless we get the classification right and the standards right. And being able to uniquely identify all those devices that Michael is deploying, that it's essential that, and building from the ground up, as we say, and getting started now, standards, data quality. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I have one question I would love an answer to myself, and there are 3 people here who are qualified to answer. For years, we have been designing using very sophisticated analytical programs, applied to BIM models. But the results that have happened, we say, on things like energy usage, etc., don't actually seem to correspond to the results of the actual results don't correspond to the actual predictions that were made from design packages. I mean, this obviously happens in every industry, but most of the mechanical industries, they're collecting feedback from IoT devices or from connected instrumentation that allow them to optimize their product. But is there any system envisaged where information from the performance of buildings will be actually centrally examined and that will help in feedback to things like some of the more complex and analytical programs, design analytical programs?
wrapped up in that, maybe to just highlight a project that's happening in the UK and Scotland that we're a small part of is a low energy off-site homes manufacturer who get to be 90% complete in the factory and then deliver on site. They're able to pretty accurately model the entire energy performance of the building in a variety of different states and locations and temperature environments and predict what it will be like. They are then going to measure, exactly as you've said, and try and capture and measure planned versus actual or the results of that. It's quite small and contained. I think what it shows you is that if you treat a building like a product or like an object that's manufactured like a product, then you have way more control and way more accuracy available to you, and dropping in some IoT sensors to measure the outcomes is much more straightforward. And I think we will rapidly see a shift to off-site manufacture, which might enable some of the accuracy and some of the better results.
Sure. Thank you. Anand, do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, certainly. The ability to bring data back from the real world and compare against designed intent is very powerful, no question about it. But what's important is to recognize that we don't build the same thing again, unless it's a cookie-cutter approach of creating the same type of infrastructure again and again, which is not very common in commercial buildings especially. So what's important is to be able to derive insights from that data that we collect and really understand what caused the drift between the design intent and the reality. And for this, there is quite a bit of AI work being done. There is IBM as the Watson program, which is already in that space. But what is really important is to be able to get the context of the spaces and the real-time performance, and be able to compare that with the design intent, bring it into an AI platform, so you can not just see the drift, but also see what's the insight from that, and what should we do in order to get that drift better aligned in future designs. It is some work to be done, but it's obviously pilot projects are already giving some results, and that's the direction for sure.
And will that data be shared, we'd say, in the open engineering, construction engineering community?
Well, I guess it depends on the projects. There are open funded projects which will get shared, and there are some private projects which obviously remain confidential.
Okay, that's fair. Would you, either John or...
Maybe one comment I would have to say on that is, again, these buildings are designed, they come to site, they're being built, and it's down to the people putting all the components together to ensure that that the building is designed exactly, or built exactly as it was designed, and because you have a theoretical model here of how this building is going to work and how all the information is going to work, and then you have it in real life, and that's where using different sensors and using technology to ensure that the design replicates, or the build replicates the design as best as possible, and only with that then you'll have the sort of the common up and the matching up of the data that you would expect from those buildings.
Thank you. Any other question, or will we adjourn for coffee? Sorry, there's one just here.
Good morning, John Whelan, British Partnership. I get the distinct impression that the digital world and the construction industry is most likely the preserve of the large corporations, in which case, if the premise is right, what's going to happen to the plethora of small construction companies around who don't seem to be engaging, perhaps they can't afford it. I was wondering what the panel's view on, is there a split coming up in the whole way the industry develops from here?
Personally, for myself, I do see a lot of the smaller organisations taking these on because they're able to turn, and they're very agile, and they can turn quickly and change processes probably much quicker than actually some of the big organisations. So there is obviously investment, but there's definitely grants out there. There's other training organisations out there that are willing to upskill. I know there's other initiatives like the 2020 project that's upskilling blue collar workers and stuff. There is initiatives out there. If you search, there is stuff out there, and I've been dealing with a lot of it myself. But I know I appreciate the comment. It's that the big guys, they see it, and as the comment was made, they're only making 3% margins on it. So they're looking at this technology because they want to get to that 5-10% margin, and I'm sure that the smaller guys want to do that as well. So yeah, and I think they should be probably protected as well in some ways and the bigger guys should enable. And I know from working with the likes of BAM and stuff, they enable the smaller guys to get access to the software and stuff like that as well inside. So they actually upskill some of the subcontractors, the smallest guys, on their way through projects as well. I know that that's happening out there with the likes of Cisco and BAM and these guys as well.
Do you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I think almost entirely opposite. I think the story of digital is the small guy able to disrupt the big guy. I think the small guy rapidly becomes the big guy in digital if he's good. So Google didn't exist in 1999, and by 2003 they're one of the biggest companies in the world, or whatever, whichever one of those stories you like. Uber has completely smashed through the rides and taxi market. Airbnb from nowhere, from a bedroom, literally has smashed the whole hotel industry. So I think that's the broad story of digital. I think in construction there's some great early stories. There's a really small off-site manufacturing homes business that took on one of the biggest, best funded off-site manufacturing guys in the UK, L&G, 50 million off-site manufacturing factory, and the little guy won the contract and delivered way ahead of schedule, ahead of everything else. So I think that the last piece I would say is we're going to see a disruption in the technology side of digital, where a lot of this stuff is going to be borderline free. So the two big games engines that drive VR and AR are free. Unity and Unreal are free to download. There's a ton of training materials on YouTube you can teach yourself. If you're of the right mindset, have a go, you'll be up and running in a week. And the world of, and we work with Autodesk and have a lot of time for Autodesk and what they do, but maybe that model of really expensive software and long adoption curves of software is going to disappear, and it'll be much more like downloading an app and being up and running in 10 minutes. And I think that's what's coming, and that to me democratises the access to all of this stuff and enables it all. The big guys are adopting, but I think the opportunity for the small guy to dive in and make huge strides forward is definitely there.
Okay, I think on that positive note we'll draw a line under this particular session. I do want to thank the panel again. The presentations today were unique in that they were very, very slickly presented, and they got a lot of very important messages across, so the speakers are to be congratulated.